Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com, and today I show you a few samples, and I will taste some of the Glenfarclas Family Cask series. Well, the Family Cask series today has these wonderful wooden boxes with a magnetic top on it. Oh, here we go. And this one is a 1985, and it's from a refill sherry hogshead, cask number 2594, 287 bottles, and just brought 43% ABV. All of those family cask bottlings are single casks, so these 43% straight is just arbitrary. So that's not normal. Typically they are odd, and they have different casks they use for those family casks. This one is a 1993, and it's a refill sherry butt number 511, and it's 601 bottles with an ABV of 57 straight. And the last one I have here in my cask is a 2000. It's quite light. It's a sherry butt. Typically does not have to be a fully oxidized sherry. They have different kind of sherry casks at Glenfarclas. It's cask number 3633 and an ABV of 56.9. 640 bottles came out of that cask. The Family Cask series was introduced in, there's a small red book in every box. And here they tell about that. It was introduced in 2006. And George Grant wrote the introduction to this small booklet. And every bottle, as I said, is a single cask. And when it's gone, that vintage, then a new vintage will, a new cask of that vintage will be bottled. So today we see sixth release of several vintages, and they started in the 50s. They started 2006 with some casks from the 50s. They are long gone now. They were not that expensive. Today they are incredible expensive in the collector's market. Then the 50s were out and the 60s were in. The 60s are out today. Now they are in 2018. The 60s are the oldest. No, they are gone as well. And the 70s, early 70s are the oldest. And the 17s aren't full because some vintages already ran out. And they added more. So most of the bottles are from the 80s and 90s today. And they are all, well, it's an independent company, it's privately owned, and they were able to fill the warehouses every year. They weren't dependent on market cycles. They were able to fill every year those casks. And this is the specialty of this family cask, because it's, family owned, independent, and they were able to have this consecutive sequence of vintages, but nothing stays forever. So those old vintages are already gone. If you have some, be happy. They are really expensive now. The third edition of this leaflet came out in 2013, and then the sales of this whiskies increased very sharply because people knew what was in those bottles. And 2014, just 12 months later, they had to print this one, which is actual in the box. I think they increased the issues of this booklet, so they will run for a few days. Here they say they had bottles from every year from the 1952 on. And to date, it was 2014, 172 casks were bottled as part of the Family Cask collection. Yeah, so if you intend to have a bottle of each, you have to be a very wealthy person. the early years. Here the ancestors are shown, and distillery was established in 1838. Then the early years, first advertisements, the spirit of independence, then the red doors. And the 50s were very good for Glenfarclas, and therefore they had casks from the 50s, because the Spirits Act of 1880 was repealed, and then this Spirits Act had prohibited simultaneous mashing and distilling. And because they now were able to do everything on site, they were able to double capacity, and therefore the casks were over and were able to mature for another 50 years or 60 years, and it was wonderful. And then everything goes on. History of Glenfarclas. There is an aerial picture in it. I show you an aerial video which we took last October, from October 2017, from Glenfarclas. Have a look. What a wonderful, huge distillery it is. So many warehouses. I think there are 3-4 dozen warehouses, and all are full to the top. There are videos online where Ben, my son, tasted casks in the warehouses. This was one of the very, very few possibilities where we could move through the warehouses and have samples from particular casks which we're able to choose for ourselves. A wonderful event, and thank you very much for Mr. Grant helping us with this wonderful selection of casks. And we got a number of samples which I now have a look into, just a brief look into. And these samples are older ones. They were, I think, leftovers from bottles. This is a 1984. It's a refill cask. It's quite light. Glenfarclas is always uncolored, and so you can decide by looking at the color how the whiskey will mature. And if you have matured, so the cask influence is most often proportional to the color, but the tannins will still come out if the color is already gone, and the sherry influence is much higher, which brings it, if it's young, and brings more color out of it. So it's, more or less you can decide from the color what's in. This is a 1993 sherry butt, and I went into the whiskey business in 1993, so this is an anniversary dram for me. This is a 2000 refill sherry butt, still very dark. And this one is a 1956, older than me, sherry hogshead. And I will have a look into a few of them, and I will start right now. The first is this very uncommon light 1984, so that we can see this refilled cask. It was only 187 bottles out of this refill cask. I have no idea which type of refill cask, they don't tell it. Cask 6033. It's a US release, 49.4 ABV. Probably if you're in the US, and it was bottled in 2014, so probably it's gone already from the shelves. So it's an untypical Glenfarclas. It's not that sherry intense. It's mature. It's resting. The aroma takes a while to come out. A little vanilla, a little caramel, not too much. A little bit of orange in the back. It's not that. Probably it's a little bit more citrus than orange. Yeah. light in the aroma and hefty. Hefty in the taste, 49.4. There's a lot of oak in that. Spicy. Not bitter, spicy. Hefty spicy. Wow. Wow. As soon as you swallow, the spiciness appears. Incredible. So it's 1985, I think, or was it 84? Can't remember. 84. Oh, so 16 plus 18. Yeah. 44. 34. 34. Yeah. Or it's bottled 14, so 30 years. So it's a leftover. So the next one is the 93 Sherry Butt. I have to open that because it's the year I entered the business, or especially said my wife entered the business. I joined a few years later, but I helped her from the first day. So this one is 59.4. It's bottled 2017, cask number 3951, spring 17 release. And this is dark and shows a deep sherry and a lot of oak already in the nose. Yeah. So there will be a video from Ben, or several videos from Ben in the warehouses from Glenfarclas, where he tasted directly from the casks. And we are very thankful for Glenfarclas letting that happen, because we went there for our 25th anniversary. And yeah, it was a unforgettable event, moving through those warehouses, having videos, having to taste whiskey. I wasn't able to taste because I had to drive, but Ben did a wonderful job, and now I'm able to taste that as well. There are some, there's a 93 I will taste very soon. Yeah. I think that was too much. I should have taken the smaller. Yeah, sorry. That happens if I'm telling you too much and my thoughts are away in Scotland. I grabbed the wrong carafe. So here's the right one. Not too much. But I won't let that intense alcohol paralyze my tongue. No. So it's 59.6 originally. Now we're 45, 48, something in that range. Now it opens up. More fruit in the sherry. Yeah, wonderful. Some caramel shining through, but the oak is strong in this one. Mouth-filling, full, intense fruitiness. Now some vanilla and caramel is rising. The orange citrus note is, this is genuine to Glenfarclas, is present. And by accident I found the exact amount of water to add. So this is wonderful, a wonderful piece of work. Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. And now there's the last one to come, and that one is older than me. So this is always a specialty to have a whiskey from the 50s. And have you seen that? I smelled on the water. It's so in my habitude in here. Before I drink, I have to smell. And even filling up with water, I smell. Yeah, so that's mankind. Yeah. So here we go. 1956 Sherry Hogshead, bottled in 2014. Cask 1767, 43.8 ABV, and spring 2015 release. So they distinguish between the bottling date, 28th November 2014, and the release, which is spring 15. So they need a few months to bring out all those, to have all those labels printed and bring out the bottles into the market, and so they name it spring release, even when they have bottled them in November. And it does not make sense to say bottling November, because only the distillation season is valid. Because in former times, especially in 1950s and 60s, only in winter or autumn, winter and spring, the water was, or the air was cold enough, and there was enough water for the coolers, the condensers, to work at their 100% specification. In summer, the cooling wasn't good enough, so there had been more of unwanted substances in the final product. So whenever you see summer distillation, be careful, but it's distillation, not spring release. That means it was put into the bottle in spring or in winter, and that does not make any difference. Well, if it's cold in the bottling facility, which I doubt, then we would get more, because alcohol water mixture is changing volume by temperature quite a lot. Yeah. So this is a very, very old sherry cask whiskey, and it's so intense that you have this aromatic oakiness in it. So it's just the sherry cask, and it's a sherry hogshead from 1956. Probably that old sherry cask was refabricated into a hogshead, because all sherry casks in the 50s had been 500 liters. Yeah, probably. So in former times, transportation space was expensive. So they knocked all the casks down to the staves and shipped this, put them not in containers. Containers appeared in the 60s, I think. They shipped them in bulk to Scotland, and there people put them together into casks, and then they produced smaller casks for having a faster maturation, because the smaller cask is, the faster whiskey matures. And then they let it rest for 38 years. 48 years, sorry about that. 58 years. 44? 54? 58 years. Yeah. That's older than me. It's 56. Incredible. Yeah. Calculating in your brain isn't that exact if you use two calculators. So a wonderful aromatic sherry cask dram. There's a strong note of beeswax in it. There's a mouth-filling oakiness in it. There's a lot of mouth-watering. It's mouth-coating. A lot of intensity in that. But it's smooth. It's not immediately bitter. It's not that intensely spicy as that first one had been. It's all settled down. It's all complex and full. Mm-hmm. With a second sip, intensity rises, of course. Yeah, what a wonderful piece of work. Well, you just had to be that sensible to let that cask rest. You do not have to work a lot for that. Just have enough money to keep the cask in place. That's all. Having a wonderful distillery, having wonderful warehouses, and have the greatness to keep that cask in place. Did they write how many bottles there were? 151 bottles out of a sherry hogshead. That's not too few. So it rested at a place where evaporation wasn't that intense, and it was, well, perfectly built so that there was no holes or no scratches in it. The evaporation would have been too big. Yeah. So this is it. The Family Cask collection is a extraordinary collection, outstanding, a unique collection in the industry, because this is family-owned, independent spirit. There are no controllers, no headquarters saying you have to bottle, bring it on the market, get your cash flow. No, this is family, and family decided when to bottle, and they did it just the right way. And today we've seen probably 250 bottles, because what I read out of that book was 2014, and today 2018. There have be 250 bottles from the Family Cask collection out on the market. Everything is single cask, but unfortunately they ask for money, and I think those bottles are worth the money. Drink less, but better. Thank you very much for watching.